Hello, welcome back. This week I'm going to be doing something really exciting. I stumbled upon this article on epicreads.com entitled Book Recommendations Based on Your Favorite Spotify Artists. I browsed through it and of course my favorite artists are on there because I'm basic. So the 4 artists that I chose were Hozier, Dua Lipa, Taylor Swift, and Doja Cat. I picked one of the books from each of my 4 favorite artists and I'm going to read them this week. I'll bring you along for the ride. Hopefully this is going to be a lot of fun. For Hozier, I chose him because I actually got a notification from Spotify once saying that I was in the top 4% of Hozier fans. So if that doesn't tell you that I'm quirky, then I don't know what will. The book recommendation for Hozier is The Kingdom of Bach by Mary Lou. I feel like I heard someone talking about it on booktube before. The post said that it was going to be atmospheric and I think it's fantasy, so it seems like it'll be right up my lane. Then for Dua Lipa is Shatter Me, which I'm surprised that I haven't read yet. I feel like it's going to be just the right amount of trash for me, so I think I'll really love that. For Taylor Swift, I'm going to be reading What If It's Us. I don't really know that much about it. It seems like it's going to be a cute romance. Hopefully it is. I can always go for some upbeat, light romance vibes. And then lastly, for Doja Cat is Slay by Brittany Morris. Always looking to read more books with young women of color at the center, and this seems to be just that, so I'm really excited to dive into these. I'll let you know how it goes. The first one that I'm going to read is going to be Kingdom of Bach, just because it's the one that I've heard the most about besides Shatter Me. I'll update you guys once I'm a little bit further in. Hey, so I'm probably a quarter of the way through Kingdom of Bach. I realized that I was saying it wrong because it's basically like it follows these 2 little kids. One of them is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and the protagonist is his older sister, and it follows them as they're kids in Vienna discovering that they're both musical prodigies, and they're also at the same time discovering this magical world that they call the Kingdom of Bach because everything there is backwards. And I was like, I thought it was going to be the Kingdom of Bach because I knew, like, I knew that it was about music and I thought that it was about Bach, but I know that Bach is spelled with CH, so the moral of the story is I'm just not that smart. That felt a little bad, but otherwise I'd say I'm enjoying it. It's medium. It's cute. The perspective from the young girl is rendered really well. It's believable that she's like a young girl and she's like a fun perspective to like be seeing the world through. However, not that much has happened. Most of what we're reading at this point is really flowery descriptions of her navigating the difference between her reality and her fantasy. So the fantasy of this kingdom that's like other but also like has seeped into her perceptions of the real world. She'll be like playing music and then there'll be 5 pages of her like hallucinating being in this kingdom, but like also just describing the way that like she feels compelled by the music and the atmosphere changes because of the music. And so the writing is beautiful and you connect with the music, and like as someone that grew up playing piano, like I really connect with it and I think it's really beautiful. However, it is a lot and I didn't realize that was what I was getting myself into. So hopefully something actually happens. Right now I don't think it's going to become one of my favorites. I'm not having a lot of fun. I'm kind of just passively like nodding along, which is not my desired feeling when I'm reading, but alas. Good morning. It is now officially day 2 of this reading vlog and I did a lot of reading last night. I'm just over halfway of the Kingdom of Bach now and it's much clearer to me what the author is trying to do. It's actually quite masterfully done, this parallel between art and music and imagination. So I'm probably gonna misquote this, but I feel like it was something that Raphael, the sculptor, said, you know, way back in the day. When I was there, I listened to him say this. He felt like when he saw a piece of marble, he wasn't like sculpting it into anything. The sculpture was already inside and he was just like discovering it by carving out the pieces that were unnecessary. That idea that art exists and the artist is just a conduit who describes it rather than the person who's creating it is similar. So like there's this kingdom that exists and the 2 Mozart siblings are channeling it through their art and they're connected to this world and their art describes it and they like bring it to life with their words, but their words are also the truth of the kingdom. I don't know, it's very convoluted. I think it's like quite beautiful, and the sentiment is really interesting, this connection between reality and fantasy and how you can speak things into existence. So that part I'm enjoying. And the author is also going into the sexism of the main character's life a lot more, because she's the older sister, but at this time in Austria it wouldn't be proper for her to compose her own music or for her to perform alone, and she has all of this resentment because she's never gonna have the same life that her little brother will have. I've been enjoying it more now that there's like a bit of a stronger plot and that there are stakes both in the real world and in the magical world. So I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would, but I'm still not like totally in love, so we'll see. Alright, so I just finished my Hozier book recommendation, The Kingdom of Back. I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. I thought it would be maybe like a 2-3 star read, but I ended up giving it 4 stars. And the astute of you will notice that in the previous clip, when I was finishing the book, I 100% cried at the end. It really got me. The beautiful sibling relationship that's cultivated throughout the story is just so wonderful. And so it really got me at the end. But now I'll dive a little bit deeper into some of my thoughts. So first, with respect to the characters, first of all, I didn't know this was based on a real story, but it is. So the like sister of Mozart and Nannerl, she was like a real person. They did perform together as kids, and there's evidence that she composed just as well as Wolfgang. It's really exciting to kind of know that this was not just like a hypothetical feminist story, but that she's casting light on the true events of this sister who loved her brother but also loved music, and thinking about all of the other women who never got to pursue their dreams because they were just ahead of their time. And another thing that I really liked is it's a convincing perspective of someone that's going through something hard and doesn't always make the right choice. Because I think there's something about the woman who doesn't just want to get married and like wants to do her own thing, who kind of just complains about it, but Nannerl takes action and like has to deal with the consequences of her actions. And I think that that was really good. And I think Nannerl is like a phenomenal character. The whole book in itself is really a character study on her. So like moving into the plot, like there isn't that much plot to speak about because it really is an examination of her as she grows up and like her dealing with sexism and her journey through music and venturing into this imaginary land. That's kind of what it's dealing with. More of these like conceptual ideas of growing up instead of like things really happening. So as someone that's more of like a plot-driven reader, this was like all right, like it got me in the end because by the end I was attached to the characters, but for most of the book I was like, when's something gonna happen? Which is bad, but it's who I am. But in terms of the Hozier vibes, on point. Hozier kind of has this ethereal music at its core where you feel like you're in an enchanted garden, and this book has the exact same vibes. Like if you're going for vibes and atmosphere and you're listening to Hozier, this is like the perfect accompaniment. Like I could not think of anything better. The recommendation of this for someone that likes Hozier's music is incredible. All right, so the next book that I'm going to read is my Doja Cat recommendation, which is Slay by Brittany Morris. I know very little about it, and that's kind of how I want to go in. I don't want to have any preconceived conceptions of what this book is and what it's not. I just want to go along for the ride, and I've only heard good things about it, so I'm really excited to jump in. So I just finished Slay. Sorry I didn't check in earlier or more frequently. I just went through it a lot faster than I thought I would. I really enjoyed it. You follow Kira, who's a junior in high school in Washington State, and she's programmed this VR game. This VR game celebrates Black excellence and was created as a safe space for the Black community to be online. It's a game called Slay. The game leans into the double entendre of the word of slay as in to kill, but slay as in to like, you know, kill it. It's Radio Silence by Alice Oseman meets Ready Player One meets the intersection of Black feminism. There's the Alice Oseman Radio Silence lens where it's like, she does this cool internet thing, but she's traditionally smart and is told her whole life that she has to go to university and she has to make this choice about what's actually going to be fulfilling. So if you liked Radio Silence, I think that skew is definitely a good point of entry. Then Ready Player One, obviously there's a VR game, and where in Ready Player One it was pretty clear that it was a dystopia. Slay is set in what seems like the modern world, but everyone has a VR headset, gloves, and socks. I thought it was fine that the world was adapted so that this whole thing could be in VR, because the descriptions of the video game and the intricacies of the video game and the way that the video game is able to celebrate Black culture is so enhanced by the fact that it's a VR game. And yeah, we don't currently have the technology for a 17-year-old to seamlessly code a VR game. But like, I was willing to suspend my disbelief and like accept that that was what happened. But I was reading some reviews on Goodreads, and like all of the negative reviews were like, it's so unrealistic for a girl to have done this in VR. VR is so hard. I'm like, yeah, okay, like fine, but that's not the point. The point is that if she were able to create something like this and had to deal with the ramifications of it being in the world, how would she have dealt with that? And that's the important question. Not how did she build it though? And then if neither of those things are interesting to you, the existential crisis of Alice Oseman and the virtual reality utopia of Ready Player One, then I still recommend that you read this for no other reason than it's a beautiful own voices text about what it's like to be Black in America today. And it's filled with hope and joy, and it made me cry when I was reading it on my phone at 2 a.m. last night. Like, it's a tough read, but it's worth it. I ended up giving it 5 stars because I couldn't fault it. I read it so quickly. I was sucked into the story. I thought that it was asking me really interesting questions and it was making me think, but I was still having a lot of fun. It really struck that balance for me really well. And then as for whether or not this is a good Doja Cat recommendation, yes. I mean, the post said it was going to celebrate Black queens, then obviously this does that. I feel like it also has the same kind of like energy and confidence as Doja Cat, and the VR world, Slay, I think is one that Doja Cat would absolutely love. Thinking of her latest video, Kiss Me More, and like how that was all a video game. Like, obviously this book came out before then and this list probably came out before then, but I'm like, Doja Cat everywhere. So once again, this list is really surprising me because I don't think it's that recent, but thus far it's done a really good job of giving me recommendations based on the artists, so I'm hopeful.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
So the next book that I'm gonna read is What If It's Us, and this is my Taylor Swift recommendation. I'm gonna be honest, I was scrolling through Google Images for pictures of the cover when I was editing this video earlier, and I saw a YouTube thumbnail with someone holding the book, What If It's Us, and it was titled, Worst Book I Read All Year. So I think the tides might be a-changin' in this video. I think this book and Shatter Me might cause me to have some stronger opinions, but we'll see. Okay, so I just started What If It's Us, and it's like a cute, quirky, like summer romance between these two like high school boys, and like I think I might enjoy it, but I'm hesitant. I know that I wouldn't have been friends with them in high school. Like, I think that like as people they're like kind of annoying. They're both like, I believe in the universe, and I'm like, what universe are you talking about? You're in a novel, right? Like, they're like, wow, like the universe put us together, it's meant to be. I'm like, no, an author put you together, because this isn't real. In these romance books, I understand that I have to suspend my disbelief to understand that like there are going to be significant coincidences that are going to bring two people together and going to help them fall in love. But having them point that out and be like, oh, it's the universe, totally broke me out of it and made me not want to root for them, because I was frustrated with them being like, it's meant to be. So I'm trying to get over that and just enjoy the story, but we'll see. It seems like it might be an uphill battle for me on this one. All right, so I'm now about 40% in and my frustration has only increased. This is the kind of book that like, it's so formulaic. It's following very much the like novel in thirds, where the first third is will they, won't they, then the second third is like them in heaven, and then at the 2/3 mark, one of them is gonna mess up and we're gonna think that the relationship won't work, and then miraculously it will. It's kind of just frustrating to read because the will they, won't they in this case is like if they have this unexpected meeting and they both like catch feels for each other, but they don't get each other's phone number. So for 100 pages, we just have them being like, oh man, I wish I could find them, but the universe like, oh, but like there is no universe. There's an author who wrote all of this. who made me like just sit and wait and listen to these two teenage boys whine for 100 pages when A, they could have just given each other their phone numbers, and B, the way that she has them find each other, that could have happened 5 pages afterwards. It really could have, and then we could have had more of a will they, won't they in the first third of like, do they actually like each other? Could have had the angsty like, oh, like, is he gonna text me back? Does he like me? Instead of this like weird instant validation that they both like each other that we have once they like get together. It's very weird. I'm not enjoying reading it because I don't want to feel the author's hand when I'm reading. I want to feel like I'm immersed in the story. And the way that these boys talk, it might just be the audiobook that makes them sound so irritating. But there's just something about them that's so like grating. They're both just so whiny. And so it makes it hard to like want to spend time with them or to want to root for this relationship. I'll keep reading, but unenthusiastically. All right, so I've just wasted a whole bunch of my time and I've finished What If It's Us, and I'm pissed. I'm honestly just so angry that I kept reading this. I knew that I wouldn't like it, and I stuck with it for the sake of this video, and I'm like angry because it was a waste of my time. If you have any interest reading this book in the future, I don't know why you would, but I would just suggest that you skip to the end because I'm about to go on a bit of a rant. So I'll see you in the next part of the video. For those of you who are still here, thank you for being sane and not wanting to read this book because it's stupid. It's so stupid. It follows two boys who have no business being in a serious relationship with each other. They have this deep belief in the universe and fate and that they're meant to be together, even though one of them, Arthur, is only visiting New York for like the summer and there's only a month left, but they get into a serious relationship which neither one of them is emotionally prepared for. One of them just got out of another relationship, the other one has never been in a relationship before and is possessive and jealous, and the one that just got out of the relationship is emotionally like going through some stuff that he doesn't have the capacity to work through on his own yet, let alone with someone else. And then every time something goes wrong, because they're clearly not meant for each other, they're like, let's have a do-over. It's so romantic, like we have to keep giving this chances. And so they keep being like, wow, you're so hot, let's try again, and kissing and making up and going on all of these like other dates, all of which go poorly, for them to at the end be like, no, but we're like meant to be together. You're like, oh, I'm so glad this happened. Like I couldn't be the person I am if it hadn't been for you. And then Arthur goes back to Georgia where he's from, and then they never see each other again. They like don't date long distance. The epilogue is just them being like, and then they lived separate lives. So I'm like, oh, so I listened to a 10-hour audiobook for what? For what? To listen to two boys whine? Whine, that's all they did. Fucking beyond me. And then both of them just go around whining about how shitty their lives are and self-sabotaging in this relationship. For what? For them to not end up together. And it's not like I wanted them to end up together because they're not meant for each other. But I'm like, why did you write the book then? Why? To be like, oh no, but look, like you can still have a meaningful relationship if it doesn't last forever. I didn't need 300 pages to know that. You could have just said so in a sentence, you know? Like this could have been a tweet. This could have been a tweet. I didn't need to listen to these two entitled boys talk about how much of the universe is conspiring against them. The universe is two authors who don't know what they're doing. I'm angry. I'm livid. I have so many negative feelings towards this book. I gave it 1 star. I don't think that straight romance is for me. I think when romance works for me, it's the B plot to an A plot that is interesting. I think Cassandra Clare does this really well. Her books are first and foremost fantasy books that have an adventure A plot. They have mystery and action components, and then there's also like central romances, but the whole plot is not will they, won't they. There's other things going on, and when things happen in the relationship that makes it tenuous, it's not because the two people in the relationship are shit, it's because other shitty things are happening to them, which makes you want to root for the romance because you know that they're meant to be together. It's just the world isn't letting them be together, not that they're both piles of garbage and shouldn't be together because they're not compatible. I really don't want to give up on romance because I feel like I would really enjoy reading some of it, but this just made me so fucking mad. So mad and I'm just really pissed that I read it, to be honest. So I'd like to move on and never think about this book again. I definitely found my least favorite book of the year, for sure. All right, so I've started Shatter Me. I'm about a third of the way through, and let me just say that this is not what I expected. I kind of knew that the era that this came out in was like the Hunger Games Divergent era, but I, for some reason, didn't A, not expect this to be dystopian, and B, didn't expect it to be this bad. It's really kind of taking me on a trip because the story thus far, like, basically we follow Juliet, who has this like power to torture people if they touch her. And so she's been locked up in a mental asylum, and then now the like government that's destroying the world wants to use her as a weapon, but it took them like 100 pages to get there. So what is in these 100 pages, you might be asking? And I'm gonna give you some examples of the absolutely bonkers filler language that this author is using. Let me read you some quotes. Raindrops are the only reminder that clouds have a heartbeat, that I have one too. I'm wearing dead cotton on my limbs and a blush of roses on my face. His eyes are the perfect shade of cobalt, blue like blossoming bruises. I close my eyes and focus on breathing. You can talk to me, just don't touch me. 7 seconds of silence join the conversation. Maybe I want to touch you. There are 15,000 feelings of disbelief hole-punched in my heart. I'm tempted by recklessness, aching, desperate forever for what I can never have. I turn my back on him, but I can't keep the lies from spilling out of my lips. Maybe I don't want you to. Find me a cure for these tears. I'd really like to exhale for the first time in my life. Their hands are wrapped in gloves wrapped around guns that could put a bullet through a million possibilities. Baby girl, I'm on page 25. You want me to continue? Like, oh, because it's like angsty, like on another level. And the romance for the sake of content. A moment of silence for the second half of this vlog, which has been so rough. So I just finished Shatter Me, and as you can probably guess, I had a horrible time. I think this is just a book that's like born out of its time. It was published in 2011, so in the middle of the Twilight, Divergent, Hunger Games like craze, and it's definitely like a product of its time. You have like Divergent vibes for most of the time, like that's how I would describe it. Like the way that Dauntless is described in Divergent, like the dark underground, like scientific but like creepy vibes, like that's how I would describe the feeling of most of the book, which I wasn't really like excited about. And then you have this weird creepy insta-love that is like explained away because they knew each other as children, and they're like, oh, but I've loved you forever, and then being incredibly attached and unreasonably affectionate towards this other person. Like, I would lay down my life for this other person. I'm like, I don't really know about this romance. So yeah, the romance also makes me uncomfortable because they're 17. This was the case with What If It's Us as well, where I'm like, these are two minors engaging in like, you know, pretty explicit sexual activity with each other, and like that's fine, but reading about it is definitely weird. Like in What If It's Us, there was a line where he was like, his hands slid underneath my boxes and I'll feel like I'll never not be hard again. Like, that's vile. Like, that's a 17-year-old boy! That's like, for me, to like think about that, like that's illegal. I should be going to jail. So like, the like continuation of the theme of underage sexual activity has continued into this book, and it's not as explicit, but like the way that they're like, so, oh, I just watched a pigeon get run over by a car. It looks like it's fine. Oh man, nope. Oh my god, it's trying to walk. Well, if that isn't an excellent metaphor. Oh my god. Pigeon aside, the end of the book is very much like Twilight meets Hunger Games, where they're brought to this underground secret society, very much like District 13. But what the kicker is that everyone there has like a superpower. First I thought it was kind of like Twilight, where like there are just some people who have special abilities, but no, there's a guy that can control things with his mind, and then there's a guy that's literally Elastigirl who can just get stretchy. And I'm like, okay, this is starting to become bizarre. And then the last sequence in this book is her getting her custom outfit, which is what? A literal super suit. It's like a latex, like tight skin suit, like a super suit. And then she's like, I'm ready. I'm like, this is not the vibe that I was getting from the original cover, which was her in like a ball gown, you know, like not where I expected this to go. It was the kind of book that took me back. It took me back to middle school, but in the worst way. Like, I didn't enjoy this at all. It was really a struggle to get through, and I kind of had to have it playing in the background on like triple speed to be able to get through it, because I just couldn't sit down and like read it because it was so frustrating. So, whew, I'm still jarred by that in Pigeon, man. Damn. Got rolled over by a car and then walked up. Jeez. Oh man. Oh man. So that brings us to the end of this reading vlog. In conclusion, I guess I got 2 good recommendations and 2 pretty shitty ones. For Hozier and Doja Cat, they were excellent. Like, the vibes were there. The books were also there. But then for Taylor Swift and Dua Lipa, like, I get that they're kind of like more like basic bitch artists, but that doesn't mean that you should recommend me basic bitch books. Like, I'm sorry, just because Dua Lipa slaps doesn't mean that you should give me a shitty book recommendation. I'm floored by that. So I really was so impressed by this list until I wasn't. In the end, I think it was worth it because I still found a 5-star read, even though I had to wade through the shit of 2 1-star reads at the end. But I think it was worth it. I think it was a lot of fun. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if there are any other like readathon challenges like this that you want to see me do, then I'm more than happy to. And yeah, like, I had a lot of fun this week. It was definitely very different for me. These aren't the kinds of things I usually read, so it was fun for me to be pushed out of my comfort zone a little bit. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, comment a little pear emoji next to your favorite artist on Spotify down in the comments below. And I'm really excited to see you guys soon.